sports business.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, if we could have a Zoom platform, I mean, it's just video chatting on our website that people are using our website as it's not Zoom, it's through UB Sports, and that's how teams and coaches are getting together and sending out their message. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
And especially if we have the video capability, that ours is going to be so much faster and it's actually more in real time so that everyone's doing it at the same time. I mean, that might be a huge pitching point.
I believe that Zoom may have like a white label package, you know, where you're actually, I mean, I don't think, you know, creating your own video platform would be
insane
venture. But if you could get a white label Zoom platform, I mean, that would potentially be the way that you could do it.
That's a great idea, John.
Yeah, Google has that set up. We can probably use that as a stepping stone.
Unless Zoom does have something you turn right around.
You know,
and
Google may have a white label type platform too.
Yeah, they have something.
All right, guys.
Yeah, just it might be easy to keep it all in house. You know, like if we can keep everything on our vertical, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Well, white label would be basically that. It would be the tools, our label. So, so actually, that we just ended up doing what we were talking about, sort of forming pseudo teams. You know, obviously for video and tech, we have 5 of us right out of the box. I don't see Mike on the call, but you have John, me, Bill, Tony, and Mike. For video and tech, I see, and we're already starting to talk about like who's going to be working with basketball and you know, talking to the trainers and hearing from the top. You know, getting in touch with Daniel. What do you think the odds are of getting Terrence on a call one day? And except for the fact the time frame might be a little weird for him, he might have some insights as well.
Yeah, I mean, he could share, you know, what they've been doing and how successful it's been, and how the players feel about the lack of connection, and what things that, you know, can continue to enhance that whole, you know, exchange. I think he definitely can add some of that, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think listening to the athletes is very, very important right now, and how do they want this information shared and given to them, and what's lacking with the whole, this, you know, this might not do it for some of them, you know.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to somehow get their perspective.
Totally.
Yeah.
To your point, I think we need to get their perspective before we think that this is what, since everyone's doing it, that's what we need to do. But we might find another way of enhancing it based on listening and getting their feedback.
Yeah, last thing I'm going to do is try to fit a square peg into a round hole. We want to make sure that we're doing exactly what they need. And I think we have a bunch of us who have had high school and college kids, you know, playing sports. So we know that again is another working group. I think that's important to have contact there. Also, and I'd like your feedback, like come back to me or start talking to each other. Do you guys all have each other's information, contact info?
Can you maybe send out an email with everybody on it so that we've got it?
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, so I'll do that. Also, is everybody already a member of UB Sports?
Yes. I think I am.
Yeah. Okay, I don't embarrass you guys, but if we're working on a site, we should see what the site's going, doing now. And also join the UB Sports staff portal. So as soon as we're all in, I'm going to close it down so other people can't see it.
Perfect.
And right now there's nothing on there that's confidential or anything, but it's going to get really, really interesting. I'm having whenever I have a Zoom call with a potential partner or a partner, I'm recording it and saving it onto that portal. So if you go into videos, you'll see a lot of those things there.
Hey, Greg, this is Tony. Just wanted to toss this out. And again, if it's too one-on-one or too dumbed down, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but as we're having these conversations out there, not sure it may be helpful. So we're kind of consistent in messaging. And if the answer's all in the portal, that's great. But maybe some sort of pitch deck or anything you had that's not investor kind of language, but something that says, here's the value this thing brings. What are you looking for? So kind of create that conversation, but at least we're being consistent in the messaging out there about what this thing is and what the platform is. So just thinking that may be a good idea, but if it's 2-101, let me know.
Tony, that's exactly what we got to do.
Yeah, you have to
And we were just talking about, was Kelly, you and I talking about it?
I'm like so nuts about this stuff because I think that especially, I'm a little type A about this.
Yeah.
I think that messaging's so important because, and we've all seen it go awry where everyone thinks we're on the same page, we're talking about the same thing, and then you all have your separate conversations and we all have all these different conversations. Right. And I think that quite frankly, realistically people read one pagers. They don't necessarily even read a deck. That's kind of phase 2, but we should start to build a one pager. Yep. And then have the deck for that person that wants to learn a little bit more. But I'm so on board with having consistent messaging just so that when we're all answering the questions that people ask, and again, we're going to get the same set of questions. At least we're all answering it the same way. Right. So we can weed out folks that are not going to be a good fit and or encourage folks that are. But I love it. Yeah. Totally a fan of the one pager.
And again, it sounds like I've met Carl for about 35 seconds, but it sounds like Carl will have a different conversation than I would introducing this concept to folks. But at least they have a baseline to work with that's consistent in messaging. That's all.
Yeah, I think the important part is to understand what the site should do and what it's going to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Which is really content, right? I think we have to make it very clear what the tight, and it could broaden, right? It's going to, ideally you want to grow it, but you have to be very specific about what the content is and why anybody cares, because there are things out there that are similar, right? But you want to do it better and broader and bigger, but we have to know exactly what the content is so that when you try and bring people in, what is it you're offering? What is the content? Why would a community care? And how it's going to be better than what's out there now, right?
So there are two things. One is, yes, content. The other one is communications. We have to make sure that communication between the members is obvious and that it's promoted, not just potentially there if we find somebody we want to talk to. Communities themselves can bring each other in. Like a coach says, I want to have my 20 kids in and my 20 parents in. So they need to know how to do that. Then they can talk about the same, they can bring, the coach can say, here, look at this content and send a link to all his people or her people, what the content is, and then link it right onto to all the members in their teams on UB Sports, because that really is what it's all about. It's content and community are the two things that a social network does in general. And the content is going to be either self-driven, like we're going to put up our own stuff, or we're going to grab it from someplace else. And the site might have, we have access to content from Vimeo, from YouTube, and from, over time, the governing bodies and from our own database. And then from the teams and the leagues as they bring in their competition and skills and drills, and the trainers bring in their information, that all becomes available to our members in the different layers. And there are those strata of the communities. So we have to think communications, content, and then, of course, organization, because the guys, coach is going to bring in their team. And then you have the strata of the team. Or let's say a league, even more so. You have the league, then you have the administrators of the league, then you have the coaches and the teams, the players, and the parents if they're involved. So
I think it's a real interesting part of the conversation. Maybe it's too far down the line, but if you're, just to use a term, terminology here, if you're going to be the kayak or the aggregator of the sports community, that's kind of cool. But to the extent you can create original content, that's a differentiator. Yeah. So just in terms of those going down those two paths, if you're thinking about generating your own content, I think that's much cooler. I think people would view that as being much cooler versus, hey, this is where I can get all the YouTube stuff instructional on X. That may be kind of cool, but I think original content is where it's at. That's just my own personal.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have a hybrid. I mean, if you have that already pre-made stuff as almost your backup, but if you think of like the TikTok model of like what kids are actually Googling and they want that like short video.
Yep.
You kind of have that as the beginning and then have those other, longer, maybe more intense videos that are already created by somebody else. Like that's a pretty robust offering right off the bat.
Right. Yep. Love it.
So obviously there's a lot of that kind of content out. One of the things we're going to do is also one of our revenue drivers is going to be aligning with subscription services, because there are a lot of subscription services, IMG, a lot of them have sports specific or more general training services where they're charging $10, $20, $100, $200 a month to have access to a trainer at different levels. And we can, when we talk to a trainer about their subscription services, we try to get them to have banner ads on our site. And when somebody signs up for their subscription service, we bring in 20 to 30% of that revenue on a monthly basis into UB Sports. So that's not only cool, but it's critical. It's a great part of our revenue.
Yeah, I love it.
And it costs us veritably nothing to have that. You know, there's zero incremental cost to adding a subscriber onto that site. So I think what we have to do is next try to figure out who's going to be the teams. And what I suggest we do is figure out well, I like to have each of you talk to me for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes on a Zoom chat. And let's then break out into groups and have an organizational call from each one of those groups once we get down to doing that. So
Love it.
let's, you guys just think about when you can talk to me, and we'll figure out, where we're going to go with that, and when during the week we can talk on a regular basis about that. All right. So that's really what I'm thinking.
I have something.
Raising your hand?
Yeah, I have something I'd like to add.
Love it.
There's a target group, I think, going back to the groups that we're targeting as members and such. Have you given any thought to like marching bands? They are peripherally related to sports in college and university. They are very active as a group, typically. And their participation starts like at the beginning of the summer, because football season is the big marching band thing. Like, have you given any thought to that? Is it a group that you would want to even target?
Okay, and how about cheerleaders? Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I mean,
the
cheerleaders are like major athletes. Like those girls are like gymnasts. I mean, I think that I did a lot of donations when I worked for a sports nonprofit, and we would do joint donations to football teams and the cheerleaders. And quite frankly, the cheerleaders were getting like full-blown gymnastics. I mean, they're athletes. And John, I love the marching band idea, because I think, first of all, they're a massive community and they're super linked and super involved. And to be completely fair, my cousin was the leader of the marching band, and I rip on him every Thanksgiving. So this is like I love this. But he met his wife through marching band, and like they're still connected. And the little girls that are all in my neighborhood, I see them practicing, and they're doing the batons and I think it's a huge community that I don't know if anybody's really speaking to them. I think it's a really smart idea.
Okay, so not only that, but actually, if you think about what UB Sports does, it takes a bunch of very defined segments of the community. You have the baseball players, football players, basketball players. Eventually, there's going to be a UB Music doing exactly the same thing, where you have all the clarinet players, the sax players, the percussionists, trumpet players, and that'll be a whole separate thing. But that's way down the road. Right now, I think you're exactly right, John. We should go right for the marching band members as just that, as communities, that
they use video for training, so that you can see what a formation looks like from above. Like it just, I don't know. It doesn't fit in any of the groups that we have spoken to, and it is affiliated to sports. It goes hand in hand with your sports.
I totally agree.
I think it's awesome. Yeah. I love it.
I like it too. Good idea.
Yeah, I think it's really smart.
Might even be, I think, easier from that perspective to get like a high school marching band, for example, to sign up and use the resources because high schools are so cash strapped. You know, like the USC marching band doesn't lack for fun. You know,
Yeah.
like so, you know, that might be a different stretch. But anyway, it's a community that I thought is big and warrants some consideration.
I love it.
I love it.
And also, it's the low hanging fruit. You know, they're not getting the resources that the football players and the basketball players are getting, you know? And so they do need that kind of stuff. So if we can bring them community and content and I don't know what kind of training, what I guess they would need both like instrumental training and marching training, right? So there's like two layers of that.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
There is a lot of training. It's a lot of, you know, my one kid was in marching band and I never realized how much, you know, I was in school. I was like, oh, they're in the band. Sadly, I was so uneducated, you know, but I saw it and saw the work that they put in, and, you know, it's a lot of fun for the kids, but it's a lot of work and it's instrumental. There is athleticism in the marching aspect of it, the choreography, and, you know, some of those instruments like the drum kits and some of the big brass instruments, like, you know,
that's actually
a lot of work.
Yeah. All right, so let's figure out how to do that. I that's a segment that honestly I slipped by me. I think we have to find a way to get into that community, that level of the that community. But you're right, it might be a low hanging fruit to get into a high school or a college to, you know, talk to the music director.
Yeah, something.
That's a great idea. Really good idea. Okay, so let's do that. What I'd like to do is, I think anyone else have any ideas or concerns or thoughts or timing wise? I think we'll have the first larger in fact, one of our investors just called right now. I had to put him on. I'll call him back. But I think as soon as we get the first $250,000 in, we need to be getting the developers immediately on board, and we need to start hiring people part-time and then full-time as we get more money in. But when we get to close to the full 5 million, we need to be deciding on who's full-time, who's part-time, who's consultant, and how we work as groups.
I have a question. So do you have your developers lined up? You need some like young, like, you know, 26-year-old, you know, computer science guys. I think you need like some different, you know, people who build up websites. You have all that, or this is our team, or do you have people you're bringing in for that?
John, I'll defer to you on that.
My screen just kind of went. I lost my screen. Hold on.
No, we can still see you.
It must be the glare from the light and the trees in the background.
No, the mode of my screen changed. Hold on. Okay, I'm back.
We can hear you. That's not a problem.
I'm back. That's a conversation that Greg and I still need to talk about. I mean, we've discussed with some app developers. I'm not sure where Greg actually sits with engaging the one developer that we think we like. But clearly one of the first things that we're going to get done is moving the platform off the existing systems that it's on into a more mainstream cloud-based system. And one of the things it's going to take is some skills for someone who can disassemble basically the existing systems and identify what's there, because we really don't have a complete understanding of what our systems involve, what kinds of things are there. So that will require a different set of skills than just developers that are going to build out the new apps or the new websites or the new functionality. So that to me is going to be the first primary focus, is to be able to move that over while we have a development team starting some of the development. I don't know that you'll particularly have individuals. I think the direction Greg and I have been going is that you're gonna outsource this to a team, you know, as a bid, and you're gonna let them take on that development. To get individuals, and try to get them as a team, there's really no direction, among that team. There were a lot more of that burden would be on us to take that on. So that's, I think, where we are and where our initial objectives are in relation to getting the developers ready and things like that.
So John, in my preconception, it's yes, we're going to let the team that we hire go crazy on the moving of the platform to ASP.NET and Java and all that kind of stuff, and to the Google Cloud or the AWS, whatever we decide on. I'm still leaning toward Google. In fact, I'm having a call with them tomorrow, and I want to get to. Someone mentioned that there's another level of Google platform that's about to be launched, and I forget who that was, but I wanted to talk to them about the tools that they might have already heard about. And it's a guy speaking tomorrow with one of the account executives over at Google. So I'll ask him if he can give me a hint as to what's coming out. But they have so many tools already, and they're putting together all these outside tools. They already own basically the advertising world with their DoubleClick and ad choices and all the other stuff they've already put together. And obviously, they're doing a great job with the Google Cloud, and they're developing that, and analytics and everything else that they've already done fit into what our needs are. So I think the Google Cloud really, to me, makes a lot more sense. But a lot of people are thinking AWS because that's the old guard, and relatively speaking, and some people are saying Azure too. But anyway, that's my thought on that. But I'm thinking that on the larger scale, on the longer term, that we need the development team to, we're going to outsource that, but then we need people to start taking on pieces of the future development and upkeep in-house.
Right.
So I don't think we can just keep that outsourced, because there are too many things that have to be taken care of individually on a needs basis, and special projects and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, in the long term, if you're gonna the transition from outsourcing to an organization to get this kick started is going to be different than what you do over the long term.
Right.
And that has to do with the costs of keeping those resources. Are you going to pay employees a salary? Are you going to pay them on an hourly basis for the work they do? Are you going however you work out that compensation? But with the outsource engagement, you can do that on a project cost, so you can kind of maintain some level of cost efficiency. There's a lot of administrative burden that's pushed off of your own plate that you don't have to deal with.
That's true. And you as head of tech would have to worry about that administrative crap. So
yeah, so we'll have that conversation about budget and stuff at some point. So
okay, so as you other guys see, this is and ladies, so I use guys as a generic, non-gender specific kind of thing, so I apologize. So we have to, these teams are important. It's going to come down to figuring out, talking among each other how we go ahead, and then we should bring that back to the general conversation. On right now, it's Mondays at 11. Is that good for you guys?
Yeah, works for me.
Yeah.
They work better for me, but 11's okay.
I'm sorry?
11:30 works better for me, but 11 o'clock is fine. This is about my NBC working stops at about 11.
Oh, okay.
That's at 11. If you get out at 11, that's why I'm always coming in a little bit behind. But 11, if it works for everybody, it's fine. So I just expect me to be 5 or 6 minutes behind.
Okay. We're going to have a vote on that. Is 11 good, or are you going to do 11:30? Does that screw up people's agendas or days?
Can't cut into Carl's too far, his happy hour too much.
True. Yeah.
Appreciate that very much so. Yep.
Got my eye out for you.
All good.
My landscapers just came. I had to come inside, or it would have been too noisy.
Yeah. So, all right. So, are we going to stay with 11 or go to 11:30?
11 works.
All right. 11's good for you guys. All right.
Yeah,
Sorry, Bill, you're outvoted.
that's okay.
Right.
Also, want to talk about On the tech aspect, you know, I've been looking at a lot of different video formats that we can use to play back the systems and record things in that we have. I found 4 of them that are really good, and I'm kind of leaning towards Plex. Now, have you heard of that, John? I've never heard of Plex software. It works it covers multiple formats that I see on there, and it also plays back on multiple formats.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it really.
I'm just going to read it up on now. It looks pretty good, though. Oh, you have?
I use it right now. We're a bunch of our friends are on a video share that somebody has an account and he downloads everything that we all want to watch and then we watch it. The only thing I would say is it does crap out sometimes just from a server perspective. But it is really easy to use. Like it's on my TV, like it's on my smart TV. It's something that we can tap into really easy with the click of our remote. So I've just used it from like a user standpoint. I'm the least tech person here. So I wouldn't be able to speak to any of the technical capabilities of what we want to do, but we certainly, like we use it like we use Amazon Prime.
Okay, because I found a few. Real Player is one of the ones that the company we talked to was using. But their platform is not as wide and vast as I thought it was going to be. But Kodi is really good, and M-Player is really good too. Those are the ones that seem to work on multiple platforms. It seems to give us the best bet to work with. But I'm up for any suggestions to look around.
Well, that's really interesting. Actually, what Kelly just now you're saying that Kelly that Plex is on your smart TV.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm having a technical conversation. It's just not my forte. Yeah, so like when we're looking at videos, like for instance, like I've started doing like pregnancy yoga, which I've also never done yoga before. Like I do that through Amazon Prime. It's a Netflixy. We use it for like TV shows and stuff like that. But then Plex is where, and again, we're totally illegally doing this, so don't tell anybody. But you know, our friend will upload, like we just watched Band of Brothers, you know, a bunch of different videos. Like he does his little girl Cinderella videos, like, but you can upload what you want and you tend to get it. Like the bonus to Plex was that they have access to videos that come out from like the movies, which obviously isn't happening right now, faster than like HBO or Showtime or any of those. So like Plex was kind of cutting edge. It's almost borderline, like when it first came out, at least to the layperson, it was almost like pirating videos because they came out faster. But yeah, I mean, it's on my smart TV like as an app. Just like Amazon Prime is, just like Netflix is. It's very easy. It clicks right in. You have an account. Super simple.
I asked a few people, and I checked on the corporate base. As you follow their Plex responsibility, I guess, and characteristics, and don't start changing all the stuff. They welcome any company putting it on their site to utilize, which is good. There's no cost in that. And 2 people I talked to said that it works really well, and multiple things I brought in, and one guy looked at it on his phone. They said it worked really well on his phone.
I mean, they definitely have the app ready. It's ready to go. I mean, it's working. It works on your TV right now. It's easy to download. Like, I mean, I've got my parents using it at this point, which I never thought would happen, but they're on.
Are there channels on Plex? Is there like a yoga channel, that kind of stuff?
I didn't see that.
No, I mean, honestly, right now it's kind of set up like it looks like Netflix or a Hulu. It's, you know, but it's kind of, you have control over what gets uploaded to it, which is different.
All right, so that actually might be really cool to have a UB Sports channel or playlist or something.
Yeah, and they have their own library, like Kelly was saying, about movies and everything else, but they also work with any other library system you might have, like a cloud setup and all that. You can download it right into their system and play back. And it works really well with that, from what I was told. I haven't seen it in action, so I can't tell you how well it works.
It all depends on your Wi-Fi. So like if your connection stinks, it stinks. But if your Wi-Fi is good, it's great.
Yeah, I'll do a little research and see what I can find about it.
Yeah, that was a really good one. Like I said, Kodi was Kodi. That was a pretty decent one. And M-Player. They all seem to have more versatility than the Real Player, which I thought was, to me, was like the staple of everybody using. But I thought these were actually more versatile and growing faster than Real Player was. That's why I thought it'd be a good idea for us to be like a cutting edge of that. Just throwing it out to you guys.
No, I like it. I think we should pursue it. So, obviously we need something like that. And JW Player is the old guard. I think it'd be really cool if we got into something that was growing and more current. Like JW doesn't have anything. I don't know of any kind of app that they have on any TV. But if Plex is on our smart TVs, I'm gonna go to my Vizio when we get done with the call and see if it's there. And that might be a really awesome way to get more ubiquitous.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. I thought it was a great idea. I didn't see that in action, so I'm glad, Kelly, you have that. So it's a great
Yeah, I
idea.
mean, people are definitely using it. Like all of our friends use it.
Okay, cool. Let's definitely think about that. All right, so what I'd ask you guys to do is either call me or set up a Zoom meeting with me, or tell me when. In fact, I'll send you all my Calendly information. You can just like set up in my calendar, and let's talk and figure out, individual timings and that kind of stuff. And we need that individual details conversation. So let's see if we can do that over the next, say, 3-4 days.
Mhm.
And I'll send you a link to the Calendly thing, and also a link to where this is being recorded, which is going to be on UB Sports. And guys, definitely join UB Sports and get into the UB Sports staff portal. And I think that's really where I think we can call it quits for today.
Awesome.
So, anyone else have any ideas, thoughts, questions,
Great
comments?
meeting.
It's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome meeting.
Okay,
That's
great,
good.
guys. Thank you very much. Expect next Monday 11, and watch for a Calendly invite shortly.
Excellent. Thank you,
Awesome.
Greg.
All
Thanks,
right.
All right, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye,
Yeah.
all.